Right, folks, I'm afraid it has reached that time for, I hear an oh no, and in our last couple of weeks of our big trip around the world in our camper van, we met this Dutch couple in a restaurant one night. We were on our way motoring home, but they were just setting off on their trip. They were doing a sort of similar around the world thing, and we were chatting to them, and I got out my phone, you know the way you do. I was like, oh, you must go to such and such, and you must visit this place, and you must see this. Here, I'll show you the photos of them. And the Dutch lady just sat back in her chair and rolled her eyes, and she said, there is nothing more boring than other people's holiday photographs. And I kind of put my phone, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, sorry. And they didn't get to see any of our holiday photographs or hear any of our recommendations other than that. But, I have taken it to heart. There probably is nothing more boring than other people's holiday photographs. But I'm just going to plead your indulgence for one just wee brief moment this morning. Because, I was going to ask, first of all, what were you guys all doing this time last week? Where were you? You were where? Paris? Oh, wow, okay. Well, we maybe have a winner. What were you doing in Paris?
With a school trip.
Oh, school trip, right, okay. All of a sudden, how glorious and romantic and exciting that sounds. All of a sudden, it's suddenly plunged off a cliff there. So, Paris, anyone anywhere else exciting this time last week? Sam was in Portrush. Well, we definitely have a winner. Where would you be on this planet other than in Portrush? And yeah, some of you might have been in one or two other different places. I would say for most of you, you were sitting right here. And really, what could be more exciting than that? But yes, as I'm sure you all know, this exact time last week, Susan and I were in New York for my 50th birthday. And, I don't know, I'm not sure I would have done it if it wasn't my 50th birthday. You know the way you have that kind of midlife crisis when you think, I really have to start ticking off my bucket list things. And it's been a lifelong ambition. I have wanted to see New York for as long as I can remember, because throughout your life, you've kind of seen it on pictures, haven't you? How many movies and TV shows are based in New York? You've spent your whole life immersed in what it looks like, and you just really, really want to see it for yourself. So shout out, first of all, can you think, where have you seen New York? What films, what TV shows, what? Friends, very good. Friends is what we're going to have first. What else? Hill Street Blues. Oh, right, not one I'm familiar with. It's Hill Street in New York, okay. What else? Elf, NYPD Blue, very good. We watched Goodfellas last night, really basically because it was all shot in New York, but I kind of think I'm quite thankful that New York didn't really look all that much like Goodfellas when we were there anyway. But yeah, first of all, Friends. I'm that generation. Friends was formed my brain probably. So a wee quick clip of Friends in Central Park. Can anyone remember Friends quiz? What happens, what's the episode when they go into Central Park to go jogging? Does that ring any bells? What's the episode? What happens? Very good. The one where Phoebe runs funny.
I have to tie my shoe, so you go ahead. I'll catch up. Okay. Come on, let's start running. Let's go!
So the whole episode is about how Rachel is too embarrassed to run with Phoebe because she runs like a crazy person through New York. But how many times have you seen Central Park and thought, oh, that just looks amazing, that looks so cool, and then for us to actually walk, not running like a crazy person, you'll be glad to see, but finally, after decades of seeing Central Park on screen, to actually walk through Central Park, it was amazing. Okay, another movie where you see New York time and time again is anytime a certain web slinger is hurtling through the skyscrapers. Let's watch a quick clip. Okay, so anytime you watch any superhero movie, or Spider-Man especially, and just see those skyscrapers, you just think that, like, there's nothing like that. Sure, there's not on this side of the pond what it would be like to soar through those skyscrapers, and then to actually get to do it. This is the top of one of the skyscrapers. This was called Summit 1 Vanderbilt. It's the newest and tallest way to get to see out over the Manhattan skyline. And so that is us at the very top of the world. And of course, as you would know, as soon as there was a glass floor, I couldn't resist, doing a little bit of Spider-Man. I actually think this next one turned out even better. Yeah, I love that little sense that you're actually falling or soaring down the skyscrapers. So just like with Friends, you see Central Park, and then you actually get to walk in it. You see the skyscrapers, and then you actually get to soar above them. Then another movie, you'll be very shocked by the choice of this movie. What movie ends with some of the characters arriving in New York? Not all of them. So that was, as you can imagine, absolutely on my bucket list. We actually found the pier where the Titanic's passengers or survivors arrived on the Carpathia, but I also really, really wanted to sail underneath the Statue of Liberty, just like Kate Winslet arriving in New York. So one of the best free things to do in New York, the Staten Island Ferry, is completely free. So you're able to sail right underneath the statue. Now, this isn't the best picture in the world, but if you look very faintly just above Susan's head there, you can see that is us doing our best Kate Winslet impression. Absolutely frozen to the bone out on the deck of the ferry. But again, walk through Central Park, soar above the skyscrapers to actually sail underneath the Statue of Liberty. You've spent your life watching it and seeing it and looking at it on screen, and then to actually be there, to actually experience it. And then one final one, our absolute favorite New York-based film. Nobody has mentioned it yet. This is maybe a wee bit obscure. Who has seen When Harry Met Sally? Yeah, so, fantastic movie. So if you remember the whole start of the movie, that Harry and Sally meet when she gives him a lift to New York, from Chicago to New York to start their careers. So for the start of the movie, they absolutely hate each other the whole way through the long journey. They absolutely can't stand the sight of each other. And then this is them arriving in New York.
Thanks for the ride.
Yeah, it was interesting.
It was nice knowing you.
Yeah. Well, have a nice life.
You too.
Okay, so that is the opening of When Harry Met Sally. Does anyone recognize, where is it that they pull up to let Harry out of the car? What's that monument in the background? Does anyone recognize it? Right, so this is the Washington Square Monument. So right beside Washington Park. So we actually spent quite a lot of our trip, we spent most of it just walking, tramping the streets, but it took until nearly the end till we found the Washington Square Monument. We actually found it at night, but because When Harry Met Sally is one of our favorite movies, we didn't just want to visit the Washington Square Monument, we actually wanted to reenact When Harry Met Sally. So here was our best attempt to reenact that scene that you've just watched.
Well, thanks for the ride.
Yeah, it was interesting. Well, have a nice life.
You too.
So we've seen New York all our lives, on screen, read about it in books, watched it in movies, and then to finally walk Central Park, soar above the skyscrapers, sail beneath the Statue of Liberty, and then to actually live it, to recreate the scene, to relive the scene. There's something actually amazing about being there, no matter how often you've seen it, watched it, read about it, no matter how much you know about it as head knowledge, there is something about experiencing it that was just absolutely fantastic, just brought the whole thing to another level, to actually say, we haven't just watched it, we have lived it. Now, hold that thought as we talk about Easter, because when we were away, we entered a whole new season of the church's life. We had Pancake Tuesday, and Lorna tells me there was great excitement as everyone was flipping their pancakes here. There was Ash Wednesday. Now we're into the season of Lent, and for the next 5 weeks, this day 5 weeks, is Easter Sunday, and for the next 5 weeks we're going to be preparing by retelling this very well-known story that for some of us we may feel that we have heard and experienced and had that story told to us many, many times before. So as we go through all of the chapters of the story, again, we may feel as if we've seen it or heard it, we've watched it, we've read about it, we all know how it goes, we know the basic structure of the story. But I guess my challenge for us this Sunday and this Easter is that this year, as we walk through this well-known story, that we would ask God for the grace to help us to experience it. Just as there was such a difference between watching Friends on our TV screens and then actually walking through Central Park, may this be a year where the stories that we've read and heard and known in our heads so often before actually become lived experience for us. They enter into our hearts and spirits and souls and lives, that as we go through this story, we would experience it. And a lot of what we do throughout this run-up to Easter kind of really helps us to do that, in the same way that actually traveling to New York helped us to really properly experience it. A lot of our preparation for Easter is kind of making it real in that same sort of way. So Nathan read out to us the story of Jesus' temptation in the wilderness. 40 days and 40 nights. Jesus struggling with the very essence of his faith, finding it within himself to trust in the plans that God had in store for him. And so as we walk through Lent, we're going to be looking Sunday by Sunday at the different I ams of Jesus, the different ways that he described who he was and who God is. Izzy and Lorna have already started us on that, and we're going to be following that through between now and Easter. And the whole idea of Lent, 40 days set aside to just especially concentrate on God, draw close to God, spend time in quiet and silence with God, to do what Jesus did, cut away the busyness of our lives sometimes to spend a little bit of time in the wilderness, drawing closer to God as Easter approaches. Then in Holy Week, we've got a couple of things which again help us not just the story in our heads, but to actually live it. On the Thursday night of Holy Week, we're going to have an agape meal. And just as Jesus and the disciples did in the upper room, we're actually going to share a meal together. We're going to share communion together. It's a way not just of reading the story as words on a page, but actually living it out. And as part of that, we're going to have a foot washing ceremony. And again, that's a way not just of reading a thing on a page, but actually living it out. Then on Good Friday, we're going to have our Tenebrae service. Lots of beautiful music telling the story of Jesus' journey to the cross. And then at the end of that service, we strip the church bare. We try now. It's obviously going to be a little bit different this year in a different building than where we were last year, but we try to take every bit of colour and comfort and luxury from the room to make it as dark and bare as possible. Again, trying not just to read the story, but to experience it, to know the desolation and the darkness of that first Good Friday. And then on Easter Sunday morning, for any of you feeling especially hardcore. Now, there's going to be all sorts of ways to celebrate Easter Sunday, but if you want to get up at the crack of dawn, we will be meeting up at the Naka Monument. And again, the story comes alive. It's not just words on a page. You actually meet while the night is still dark, and you can imagine the sorrow and the grief of the woman who came to the tomb. And then, as the sun rises over Belfast Lough, you can feel hope and life and resurrection and joy rising within you. You live the story. You don't just read it. So this Easter, let's make it our commitment. Let's make it our prayer that as we go through these stories, we don't just watch them and leave them at arm's length, a little bit of a distance. Lord, this Easter, would you help us to live the story, to experience it, to engage heart and soul, so that it's not just a story we read, it's a story we experience, something that changes us and molds us and encourages us and shapes us, because we have walked with you through Lent, through Holy Week, and through Easter.